Welcome back to AR Tales, aka the A.R.T podcast. I am A.R. Mirabal, and today I am joined by Dal Cecil Runo, author of the noir novella Danger, out now. You can go and pick it up on Amazon. It is available through her Instagram. Just like go through the links, you'll find everything. I'll let her go and tell you what the links are in a second. But she is also quarrying, oh God, an awesome sci-fi book that she's going to be detailing to us about in just a little bit, called The Weaving Spider and Moth. And I know that name sounds a little paranormal, but it is sci-fi AF. Trust me, I've been already talking to this girl. She's about it. Without any further ado, Dale, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, muy bien, gracias.
Pronunciation, not bad. Well, of course, you're in
Spanish.
Yeah, you're in Argentina. What am I talking about?
I'm in Argentina. Yeah, it's really nice to be here, and now with better connection. Yeah, the Wi-Fi was being a monster yesterday, but I'm happy to be here. Those are the books. I have some other short stories. Like if you don't like noir for whatever reason, I also have some other short stories available for free to listen to on. For free 50, available on my YouTube channel, which is also Dal Cecil Runo, like my name.
Yeah.
And so like flash fiction and short stories, there is some sci-fi there. There is some creative, poetic fiction. I don't even know what genre that is, but like short stories you can listen and some poetry. So I do have some material out that you can listen to and short. So it's not like a big compromise of any kind, just so people have a taste of my writing while I query my sci-fi with a strong paranormal element novel to literary agents.
Oh my God. And how can anybody not like a noir?
No, I don't know, maybe.
Gross. Yucky. That's like me seeing a weaving spider and moth. Get out of here.
There is a reason why I decided to go for the bug symbolism. There's a reason for that. That sci-fi has a strong element of outsiders protagonist, like an outsider protagonist, and
like a misunderstood character.
Misunderstood and dehumanized.
Ooh.
So that's why I go with the bug metaphor, because it's like if everybody had an animal companion, a la His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman, if we all had an animal, people would assume that these two protagonists would be like bugs, because not because they are unlikable, but because they are different, and people are intimidated by what is different. So that's why the symbolism is perfectly fitting to the story. So that's why I chose that working title. Of course, if a literary agent picks it up and they want to change it, it's not in my hands. But currently, you heard it first. This is what I had in mind before representation happens, if it happens.
Now, that is really a really, really interesting thought. Like, one, I can actually riff off you. One of my short stories is called the first one I ever wrote actually is called No One Noticed the Bees, because like I just got this fascination idea of bees are so integrated in our society, but they're also like something that you don't pay attention to if you don't pay attention to it. So it's one of those things that the analogy that a frog doesn't feel the fire, like when they're put into like a boiling pot, like they don't notice the heat until they're already dying. It's kind of the same thing where like we pollute the earth and do all these things, but we don't know until it's too late. So it was kind of like based off that. So I agree.
Love that topic.
Well, that's why I agree so heavily with the whole symbolism of like the insects, because insects are such an interesting thing, and even more so what you said about the dehumanization of like those insects in particular. And just what you said about the intimidation thing really struck me, because humans, like, even if you think that you're all progressive, especially today, that everyone thinks that they're all like cool and whatnot, but there are certain things that your brain are just like, it's just like wired to do, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if the reason why we don't like spiders is because like because they're arachnids, like they have 6 limbs, and we're looking at that like, oh my God, like our brain just immediately goes like, Get out of here. That's not like us.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's why one of my favorite books, one of my favorite reads from 2020. I mean, it's not a release from last year, but I discovered it last year. So for me, it was new last year. Was The Children of Time by A.R.T. Tchaikovsky. I was like,
I
oh
actually
my
heard of
God,
that. Yeah.
oh, there's a bunch of spiders. You're gonna love it. I was like, why do I feel like the symbolism of this book is so connected to mine in a completely different way, of course, but why? It was because of the outsider thing and like the different and how we see different and we get like intimidated by it. I was like, wow, that's I mean, my main character is not an arachnid. Don't be afraid. I'm not writing about living spiders. It's not Adrian Tchaikovsky, please. To those who have read it, no. My main character was born in a space lab. He has no country. He was literally born in space. So it makes it really hard for him to integrate himself to any kind of society, because the first thing that, at least in Europe, when I lived in Europe, the first thing that they ask you is not even your name. It's like, so where are you from? And I'm like, my name is, Dal is a pen name. So I have another name in my real life. And you know, people were like, so where are you from? And I'm like, my name is Dal, nice to meet you. So where are you from? And I was like, whoa, this is rough. So that's where the inspiration came from. It's the way that people just label you before they meet you, so they can categorize you in their brain before they even give you the chance to be you in some places. And it's like integrating is so hard. Like wherever you go, if you were literally born in space, literally everyone is going to be, well, after all, you're not from here. So yeah. And so that's a big part of my novel. But there's so many themes that have to do with genetic engineering. Like, what do you do with children who were born in a lab? They don't really have a family. Like, if people with broken families, they already have a family and the family is broken, they already have a lot of issues to overcome. Imagine what it would be for someone who was genetically engineered and adopted, and like, you know, it's such the etiquette, you know, the ethics behind it. And I explore that a lot in the sci-fi novel. That's why I didn't want to make it sound like sci-fi, and I went more for the symbolism. That's why.
God,
I don't know. I don't know if literary agents are gonna take it, because it doesn't sound like something that is trendy, but kind of.
Well, if not, just go self-publishing route. Just do it yourself. Who cares? But there was something that you like. I just really love that idea, because it's kind of like what I was talking about. What I was just talking about. Like, I would love to think that I'm progressive enough that, like, if in 50 years we like make contact with aliens and we find out there's like an octopus people living out in like Saturn, and we were like talking to them, I would love to think that I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna be in my 50s grabbing a few drinks with Glark and right, and we're gonna go and get twisted, and it's gonna be a fun night. But I wonder if my brain is automatically gonna be like, oh, they don't even have 5 fingers. They have like slithering suction cups. Like, gross. Like, how can I be friends with that? Like, I wonder how far that goes until it just feels like, like, what would you do if you saw an octopus in the open ocean?
Right.
I'm an ink, just like an octopus. I'm gonna shit just like that. That's gonna be just a black cloud behind me. If I see it in the ocean, that's scary as fuck.
Now imagine an alien.
Exactly.
Right. It's sci-fi. This is something I love about sci-fi, is the whole exploration aspect of it. Like, and hopefully no one who's listening will get this the hard way, but like, I don't see that much done in fantasy. So this is why I'm more inclined to the sci-fi genre, is because I see more exploration of this wild concepts. Fantasy kind of stuck with whatever Tolkien did with dragons and swords, and I'm over here like, cool, it's nice, but I will definitely always pick up a sci-fi book before a fantasy one. It's like, this is why, even though people say the genres are very connected, I don't feel it that way, because sci-fi has so much exploration and like not necessarily futurism, because not every sci-fi is so futuristic. There is some kind of literary sci-fi, contemporary sci-fi that's more earthbound. but you still get this exploration aspect of what if. And I love that. This is one of the reasons why I love reading so much. It's because I can learn through fiction, or sometimes non-fiction as well. I like both, but the fiction that I love is the one that I can learn from somehow. Like there is something to leave me with some thoughts after the book. I love those, are my absolute favorites.
Man, I completely agree. And just like continuing that whole thing is like taking the same thought that I was talking about, and like just the progressiveness, like the progression of what sci-fi is and how things like develop. Like if we were to make that into a book, right? If you were to write me into like a book where like, you know, mad progressive when I'm like in my 20s, like, you know, I'm going to the protest, I'm doing all this, you know, rights for XYZ, I'm doing all that shit. And then,
yeah,
you know, in my 50s, we make contact with aliens, and now I'm the racist. Now I'm the boomer. It's like, oh, you can't trust those goddamn Saturn's, right? And then, right? And then my kids are now looking at me. It's like, oh, Dad, how could you be so racist? I mean, they're, you know,
okay,
me and
boomer.
yeah,
Like,
okay,
yeah.
boomer. Me and go on the weekends every night. You know, he's mad fun. That's why I hate you, Dad. Right? That whole thing. It's like it's so crazy.
No, but it is so true. It is so true that we in our youth, when we are young, we always think that we're the shit. Like
Yeah.
we are the coolest, most progressive, most advanced, most everything. And then we age, and those who come after us are like, ha, you think you're the shit, I am the shit. It's like, you know, it's a progression of generations. I love that topic for some sci-fi. I'm not doing that so much with my book, but kind of, but not really. It's like I explore the topic a little bit because, of course, you know, the outsider character, but it's not a generation specific thing. It's more like a mindset thing. And even within the groups of the people who are genetically modified, who live in the space station, because that's like the whole premise. It's like we have a bunch of genetically engineered people living in space now, but even within those circles of selected few, even they dehumanize this character because he doesn't really have a family. So some of them will not dehumanize him that way because they have a different mindset, but it's like a common thing, you know. It's like the bullying aspect is always going to be, but like, you know, he doesn't have a family, he's not from here, like he's not from Earth, he's not human, he's not this. Oh, like, oh, aren't you, like, who's gonna care, aren't you the lab kid, you know? Yeah. You know, it's always gonna be that kind of wall for him to reach like a sense of belonging. So I explore that a lot within the genetic engineering and stuff. And not only the genetic engineering thing, like the people who were modified and living in space and stuff, they always have, they are born with like a specific ability. It's like a psychic ability. So I'm going a little bit Stephen King in that sense, but not really. And some of them are born with lucid dreaming and astral projection skills. Some of them are like Nikola Tesla on steroids because they are like technology innovator prodigies. So that's what they do. They are like engineers since they were 5, because it's just the way the brain works for them. It's like they are so good at tech that it's scary. And there are the clairvoyants, who are like people who can really tell the future. It's not like the tarot scammers. No. They can really tell the future, but they have a system how it works, and they have like training and learning how to do it properly and not make a mistake with it. So it's like very what fantasy writers would call a magic system, but here is like the psychic abilities and how they work, and I explore that a lot. So this is why even within those supposedly evolved circles of people, even they still dehumanize the main character. It's like they still have, like, it doesn't matter how you think, how elevated you think a person is, if you show them an alien, yeah, we'll see.
Oh my God. And now, how do you work all this in as far as a protagonist and antagonist go? Like, what point of view is the story being taken from?
Okay, I'm narrating in third person with 2 points of view. So there is a character in space, the one that I've been talking about mostly. His name is Tibor. It's a Hungarian name, but it's also accepted in Iceland. And his parents, so the engineers who made him, were a Hungarian woman and an Icelandic man. So they agreed on a name that was like approved on both countries. And I had to do a lot of research for that. Like Hungary and Iceland are two countries where you have to have an approved name. You cannot just go there and, oh, my name is Javier. Well,
Angel
Javier
Federico, Angel Miguel.
Yeah, it's not approved. So you cannot, I mean, if you're a foreigner, cool, you're a foreigner. But if you're born there, you have to have an approved name in both countries because of the way that the surname system works in both countries. So I did a complete list of approved names for both countries to see which one would land in both, that is not like John or David or, you know, the biblical names that are accepted everywhere. And one of the few names that I landed upon was Tibor. And I was like, I'm not so sure about this one, but it will have to do for the time being. And I just stuck with it, like, well, you know what, I like it. And then I found reasons to like it more. And it's like, oh yeah, it fits him. It comes from Tiberius. And Tiberius was the reluctant emperor. So the emperor who didn't want to be an emperor or something. And he was exiled and all. I was like, okay, that fits. You know what? That's your name now. It's Tibor. So his engineer parents were Hungarian and Icelandic. But, you know, it's fiction. Things get dark. And his parents are not there anymore. So he's adopted by this other man, Mr. Fyodor Petrovich. So Russian.
Rolls off the tongue.
Definitely, like, yeah. And so that's his father figure. That's the father that he wants to impress, and that's the father that he wants to make proud. And it's like, I want to make Papa proud. And there's a lot of morality in question, because it's like, but he wants me to do things that are wrong. Why? And then he's at conflict with this. And also the part of being an outsider. It's like, I don't have a place to go. The only person that's in my life that it's like my family is this man over here. So I have to please him, but at the same time, I'm not pleasing my own moral. And it's like, what do I do now? And it's like, it's a kid. This is the worst part of all. Tibor is a child while this story is happening. So I am the case of an adult novel with a child protagonist, which is difficult to query in some cases, because agents are like, is this a middle grade, young adult, what is this? And I'm like, it's adult, trust me, it's adult. It's like, it's difficult. And then the second POV that I always seem to run away from talking about, the second POV is an earthling girl. She's on Earth, she's in Peru. I'm not Peruvian, but you know, I did research. She's in Peru, and she's partially blind and biracial. So she has a lot of myself without being myself. So because she's blind, almost, like partially blind, so not completely, but almost, she has a lot of struggle just to survive in a country that maybe, even if it's the 2060s Peru, they are still not developed to be accessible for people with specific disabilities. Like, their transportation system is not going to evolve to the point that they need to in 40 years from now. So she's going to struggle just for her independence, her mobility, her survival, you know, like, you know, there's a lot of that outsider. Again, it's a different kind of outsider from Tibor, but both are outsiders. And the funniest thing of all is, Tibor wants to go to Earth so bad. It's like his dream is going to Earth and see all the nature and wildlife. He loves animals, nature. He's a nature geek. And then Annie, who's the girl in Peru, Annie, just grab the name, that's not Latino. And she dreams to become an astronaut and go to space, and how wonderful it would be to explore the stars. And both of them, if they met each other, would be like, ha, 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 nice, not really. So like, they dream of the other's life without knowing the other. but if they could answer to the other, it's like, ha ha, nice dream. Not really. So you see how this becomes an adult novel right away, because I'm just giving all of this to the reader without telling the reader. I'm telling you now because I'm describing it for you, but I don't narrate this. I don't spoon feed you that this is a theme of my novel. No, you will just figure it out, because you will see, oh, he wants to go to Earth. Oh, look at her, she wants to go to space. What? The reader will figure it out, I hope. I mean, it's clear. So this is really an adult novel. It's just that you see the progression and how two children that are outsiders grow. You see them grow a few years. So there's a lot of introspection, I guess. So it's kind of hard to query. I don't see that published very often. And people tell me that they don't see this published very often. Like, I look for a comp title and people are like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. And I'm like, oh, that's hard. So it's hard to query, but it requires a lot of research, but I'm not gonna give up so easily. I will try my best until this thing gets published somehow.
Well, that's the thing. I wonder, why are you so gung-ho on the publishing route? Like, why do you feel the need to query?
No money. I cannot self-publish this. I cannot afford it. I am blind, so I need an editor to catch all my mistakes, those that I cannot catch by myself. I need a cover designer that's professional. I need a formatter, an interior designer. All of this costs a lot of money, and I live below the poverty line. So no, this is the only reason why I'm querying. I don't do it for prestige. I don't do it for fame. I don't want to be the next Stephen King. I don't care. I just want my novel to get published. But I don't have the upfront cost that requires to be self-published.
Yeah, it does require it. That's often we like to talk about things like it's all like flowers and like rainbows, but like often this industry is not that. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart. You really got to come with it, and not only that, but just you
gotta be ready.
Yeah, the likelihood of even breaking even is like low.
It's very low.
Yeah, but again, it's a passion project. Like, who really cares? Like, it's I actually feel the exact same way as far as your writing. It's why I actually really empathize with it and like that type of writing so much. Like, it's like the whole iceberg analogy from Hemingway. Like, it's not about you having like this huge mountain. It's about you having this little thing above the water that underneath is like the whole mass of it, and you have to understand that through your own introspective of the writing, not that it's just given to you or spoon fed, how you put it, right?
Yeah. I don't like spoon feeding. I hate it so much. I struggle because as a blind writer, like I told you, I don't focus so much on the visuals and the body language and the gestures and the micro expressions that people, she cocked an eyebrow and whatever, and I don't understand it, so I don't do it myself. And I rely more a lot on the tone of voice, the word choice, the tone in which a person speaks, the language that they use. I rely so much more on that than I'm like, oh yeah, I have to say that they grabbed the cup of coffee and took a sip. And I have to remind myself to do that because my readers are sighted, so I have to please them a little bit. But I don't focus on visuals as much as I should, maybe. But this is an interesting thing because people before they hear all my rambling about the weaving spider and moth, before they know what I'm doing, when they just know me from Instagram or whatever, they assume that maybe they come with a suggestion of, oh, but like, have you thought about writing from the perspective of like a blind character? And I'm like, I'm already laughing. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, I didn't think about that by myself. Like, it's already kind of insulting, but I just let them be. I just let them be. It's like, sure, guy. Wait, have you thought about writing from a perspective of a blind character that, it would be so interesting to read about it, blah, 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 blah. And I'm over here like, yeah, okay. Do you realize that I'm not going to give you body language in that sense? And then I don't say anything. I just say, sure, I'm already working on it. I try to, I'm a peaceful alien. I'm not going to make it a fight. So I'm always taking it from, the lighthearted, even though my brain is like, huh, my brain is like insulting, but my mouth is like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'm already working on it because I want to keep it peaceful and I want to keep good relationships with people. I do my best, but then
fuck all that.
then
I'll tell you straight up. It's like, what are you? Go home.
yeah, it's like no, and then I show what I do to some people, and it's like, but I need more details, and I'm like, dude, the hypocrisy. But I'm just like, okay, they are not my target audience. My target audience doesn't need to be spoon fed with all the details about how a room looks or how a person is moving their fingers as they speak. I'm no, that's not my audience. Nice to talk to you, but you are not my reader. So but it took a while for me to learn this. It wasn't something I knew from the start. I felt so bad for a while. I felt like, wow, I'm just a terrible writer because I'm not giving enough detail. And then I found people who are more like my target audience, more sensitive, more thoughtful, more, you don't need to spoon feed me the details kind of people. And they were like, wow, you're so descriptive. And I'm like, this is so subjective. It takes a while. It really takes a while. But it's like, once I started reading, for example, Kazuo Ishiguro, I saw the sun. Ishiguro is not a writer that's going to tell you everything like feeding a baby. He just lets you do the work as the reader. And since I started reading his works, it's like, I can do this.
Well, to me, what that type of writing is, like where I got my inspiration to pick up that type of writing, that form of writing, was from watching Breaking Bad. Yeah, and that show is like a master class. Like if you want like a true like the highest quality level of the type of writing we're talking about, you just watch a couple episodes of that show. There's nothing that's spoon fed to you. When something happens and a character reacts, they just like all the camera will show is just their face, or maybe they'll say like something off kilter, or they'll just react in a certain way, but they will never, and they'll just glaze past it. They're not going to talk about it in the next episode and be like, oh, I noticed how last episode you did this. Oh, that's because I felt really ashamed of what I said. And none of that. None of that. It's human shit. You just have to study it. Yeah, you just have to study it and understand it. And I think the reason why that type of writing goes is because, like, why that type of writing can work, because sometimes it doesn't work. But the reason I think it can work is that you interweave it with enough genuine, just like entertainment. Like you keep the pace moving, you keep like things like happening, that for the people that won't give that level of introspection, for the people that won't, peek under the waters to look at the iceberg underneath, they're still having a good time.
Something.
You know what I mean? There's still something for them to latch on to.
For them.
Yeah.
I'm working on that aspect because I'm so introspective that sometimes I need to come out of the shell a little bit. That's my flaw, and I recognize it. It's like, okay, now I have to give them something, and I do give them like training sequences, and then there's a fight scene somewhere going on. There's some entertainment happening somewhere, but it is something that I'm very self-conscious about, that I am like, do I have enough of that tip of the iceberg for someone who's maybe not that much an introspective person, like my readers that I want, and like myself. So yeah, it's a part of the process that I'm still improving upon. I have a lot of things to work on, but yeah, that's one of them. Now,
segueing into the topic of like ideas, could you tell me what is like your favorite theme or element that you put into the weaving of spider and moth?
My favorite theme?
Yeah, like kind of like, yeah, like the one that just came into your mind and was like, hey, that's actually like that you can generally say that you're proud of. Like, hey, that's actually not a bad idea.
The whole lucid dreaming and astral projection concept is something I'm very enthusiastic about, because it's a completely new exploration of getting rid of the limitations of the physical body and what could you do with it. And now I don't take it to the level of the new age crowd. Like I have done research and I have encountered the new age approach to all of this, where everybody thinks they are a shaman or something, and I'm like, no, I don't go to the pseudo narcissistic elevated consciousness, I'm better than you kind of. No, I don't do that. I just explore it as if it were a scientific thing that happened, that now people have this skill, and what can they do with it, and how it could go wrong, and what can happen that could go wrong, and what can go right, and what can be, the exploration of astral projection as a skill. And for example, for space exploration, we cannot go to Alpha Centauri. We don't have the technology yet. But what if we could go there, at least in astral, like in a consciousness projection of ourselves, and see what would be happening over there, explore these worlds without the limitations of our current technology, or even in a few years technology and our physical bodies. Like if we could at least go to, say, Kepler 45-b and see what's there. So I expand Kepler 45-b is in my novel, and they go there. So that's the entertainment aspect. They go and they see what's happening in that world, if it's anything happening at all. And so that's how I approach the whole astral projection, lucid dreaming, whatever. I don't do it like you have to evolve to become a spiritual higher self, blah blah, and then you elevate your chakras. And that, no. I that's not. I don't bring in the religious, pseudo religious aspects into my. I don't do that. It's just, I'm going to put so many walls if I do that to a lot of readers who don't believe in those things. So I'm just taking it from a completely scientific approach, or pseudo-scientific because it's sci-fi, but what if it was real? What if scientists really found a way to modify the genes to be able to do such things? What would happen? Yeah.
Man, I have an interesting question for you.
Yeah.
Weird tangent, but the moment you talked about it just made me think about it. So the whole thing that you're talking about to me is like a differential between spiritual and technology, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Like if you were to like diagnose that in like a philosophical term, like what you're describing is basically, in essence, it's like Michelangelo's painting of like God and Adam, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
So what that represents is like if you look at that painting, the human is like, he's holding his hand like this. He doesn't give a fuck. He's like barely reaching out. He's like lazy. And then God is stretching all the way out. And then there's a space there. So like that, what that thing is that it's like that is what humans are. Like we are right there to divinity. We are right there to like, a higher self, a higher thing. It's not even related to God or Christianity, but like we're right there to like a higher thing. In your aspect, in your world, it would be, astral projection and like lucid dreaming and all these things. But we're right there, and we just don't, flick our finger up. We just don't do it. Like we just don't reach out for it like we should.
Because right now we don't really see a usefulness to it.
Oh no, we see a usefulness for it, but I think what we do is that we like intermediate with other things. So right now, so back in the day, the reason like religion was like as huge as it was because like we thought that religion and like devotion and faith was the way to get that divinity. And I think slowly over time we've been like, all right, I guess maybe it's not working. We've been around for a couple thousand years. No beams of light have taken my dogs yet. Like we're still here. And then slowly, I think that started morphing into technology. We're like, all right, technology is going to be the thing. We have the Hadron Collider that's literally creating different universes and fucking mini black holes, right in fucking Sweden. We have all these creative technologies. Yeah, Switzerland. I'm sorry, but I thought it's actually it's huge. It's in like 19 different countries.
Oh no, I always heard it's between France and Switzerland.
You might know more. I'm making a lot of assumptions.
Yeah.
So,
No,
but,
never mind.
yeah, so we'll just leave it there. Listen, I don't do research. Well, like, in life I do, but what you want? You want me to have,
We are just talking off
we're
of
just
our
talking. I'm
brains
just
right
talking shit here. We're at a bar right now. Picture that. We're at a bar. I'm talking shit. I don't have a dictionary near me. But
Yeah.
like just that thing, I think that it's morphed into technology, right? But it makes me wonder if that is just what we're doing with our society. So you look back at Egypt and whatnot, and we see that they don't have plastic. We have there's no ruins of skyscrapers. They didn't have cars. They didn't have this. So we assume that they were at like a lower societal level than we are, right? We have iPhones. They don't. They were fucking, taking rocks and like, chiseling pictures of like, dick pics to their friends. And like, that's what we have now, hieroglyphics. Like obviously they weren't as advanced as we are, but it makes me wonder. I wonder if that spirituality is how their version of technology was. Like imagine, like if you look back, especially on the hieroglyphics, they were really about like, astrology. Imagine if they actually knew and understood the secrets of astral projection, and they were visiting these other stars. Like they didn't need to have an Elon Musk and a SpaceX and fucking NASA.
Right.
They just did it, and there's no proof of that because like how would there fucking be proof of that? It was mental, and if they write about it, we're just gonna claim it as myth. So
exactly. It's fiction.
It's
mythology.
Fiction. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
it's absolutely, yeah. Wow, that's a novel right there. That's a novel right there.
Yeah. So
someone has to write.
I was immediately thinking, like, imagine in your book they go to Kepler and they land on there and they meet people from Egypt. They meet like a pharaoh. They're like, oh yeah, what's up, bro? We came out here like a long time ago. You guys are still there. That's fucking lame. Earth is fucking boring.
I mean, I didn't do that, but now I'm considering. No, I'm not gonna do that. But it sounds like such a fun idea for another book.
Yeah, just like
I'm not gonna spoil. I'm not gonna spoil what I did, but they do find a few things. But I'm not telling what. And not here. You will have to see when that thing gets published if somebody picks it. I mean, I'm always trying to be like, well, you can tell I'm a chill person. I'm quite easy to work with, and I am a problem solver kind of thing. So always try to put the best of myself for people to collaborate and all that. So I try to reflect that in everything I do, and I try to, like, my brand is very sci-fi oriented. People can tell that chick writes sci-fi. Like they just go into my profile. It's like, yeah, definitely sci-fi. I already see the reference to the Space Odyssey in your background thing. Yeah, it's a reference to the Space Odyssey, and I didn't even remember when I did it. I just thought it was cool. The moon, Saturn, another galaxy, whatever. And I just did it like that because it was cool. And then I reread the Space Odyssey, the 2001 Space Odyssey, and I was like, whoa, everything is there. My background aesthetic is just a reference to this book. Wow, I didn't even remember. So I always try to put my brand up front, like, hey, I'm writing sci-fi. And it's like, the more I want to stick to the real world kind of sci-fi, even though I have the strong pseudo-spiritual, paranormal element, whatever, but it's still very sci-fi and very attached to our world. I'm not making a parallel universe or an alternate Earth. No. It's our world for real. There's a mention of Starbucks somewhere. So it's our world. So it's just, I try to just put my best self for literary agents. Like, if they find me, I want them to see the best of me. But I suppose it's just not trendy. I guess. I don't know, or is it because I'm a minority writer, because I'm not in the States? Maybe my writing is not good. Who knows? I mean, I never know the reason behind it, but it has been rough. And I know it will continue to be rough, but hopefully there is an agent for my stuff out there. I don't know. I hope it sounds interesting to them, at least a little bit, just to give it a try. But I don't know. I mean,
well, if anything, I mean, like, I think the best part of this craft is that you just get progressively better. And like, for as much as like it's a public thing as far as content release, it's such a private thing about content creation. So
yes.
Like, I don't know. I mean, like, we all have those like thoughts and whatnot, but like, you know, I got my proof of my book over there, and it's not even my finalized proof. But
Congrats.
just holding the bitch. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, yeah, I made this. I'm proud of shit about it. Who
I
cares if
wrote
I
it.
sell? Yeah, who cares if I sell like 5 copies? I mean, like literally, why I envisioned, you know, 7 years ago when I thought about this book is what I'm holding in my hands. Like, if that's not a testament to human will, I don't know what is. Like,
Yes.
just that in itself is a beautiful human emotion. Why ever be, you know, distraught about it just because somebody else doesn't like viewpoint? I mean, like, dude, if a flower grows and nobody appreciates it, is it not still a beautiful flower? I mean, that's crazy.
It's still a
It's
it's
still a
still a
beautiful
beautiful
flower.
flower. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still a beautiful flower. I agree absolutely. It's just I just wish I just have a lot of economical barriers to do it
Mm.
myself. So that's why I'm also trying to grow a platform so more people notice me. Maybe if I am noticed enough, maybe I could go the self-publishing route if I get like support from people who actually want to read it.
Yeah, why don't you just start
A GoFundMe and that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
or like a Kickstarter. Like, listen, you will be absolutely shocked with how people jump on that. I had man, I think it was like episode 30. I had this maybe 29. I had this person called Cody Fernandez. He's doing indie comic books. He raised like $15,000 for his comic book within like 7 months, and he is not famous. You know, no offense to
Yeah.
Cody, but like when he, you know,
No, I mean
when he
you
makes
know,
a post, it's not like he's like blowing up. It's like a regular post. It's like me and you making a post. It's not like that many people are responding to it, but like still, he was able to like garner enough people's attention that, you know, $15,000 later. I mean, $15,000. You know how many books you can crank out with $15,000? You can write a
I
book with
can pay.
$1,000. Like
I can print my whole trilogy. I mean, this book that
and
I'm
then some.
discussing.
Easy.
Yeah,
Well,
this book that I'm discussing is the
15,000.
start
What?
of the
That
trilogy.
5,000 per 5,000 per book. Oh my god, that's way too
Yeah,
much. You can
it's
easily.
my trilogy right
Yeah.
there. Yeah, because I developmental editing, copy editor, line editor, proofreader, formatter, cover designer. Yeah, that could be five. That could be $5,000.
Yeah, but don't do that. I'll just, you know, just telling you personally, listen, I mean, like there are certain things about the industry that like were created like by traditional publishing houses that literally needed to give people money in order to give them like jobs and shit. Like there was an entire position of like a lawyer at like a publishing house just to write the copyright page.
Mm-hmm.
You can literally copy and paste that off the internet today nowadays. But that used to be a position. That used to be like 100,000 a year at a fucking publishing house.
I know I can find like trusted people who can do all of those things for cheaper, so it's not gonna be $5,000.
No, it's not
this
even.
Is why I network.
No, it's not even a cheaper
That's
thing.
why I network.
Yeah, it's not even a cheaper thing. It's much as just like you just like
readers don't
like,
care that much.
No,
I know,
I mean,
right?
like I think they care, but it's like one of those things. Like, all right, like what you just talked about was five stages of editing, 5 stages, meaning it's gonna go through line edit and all these people. I mean, at certain points, just stand up and just do this shit yourself. I mean, you just go through, you hit Control F on Word document and just go like, you know, start looking up your own things. Make sure you have no orphans. That's it.
Yeah, I do.
You just saved yourself $1,000.
Right. No, I do, but then again, remember I'm blind.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard. I want to put something of good quality out there, so I don't want people judging me like, oh yeah, remember she's blind. I mean, and that lowers the quality of my work. No. I am a little bit like, I'm like at the Toph Fong of writers. I want to be the best. It's like, yeah, I'm really, Toph Fong is like the best blind character ever created in the fictional universe. I love her so much, and I identify with her so much. She is truly the hardest working bitch ever. She invented.
She invented.
Like no one had it, and she just made it.
You know what's my favorite part about that? My favorite part about that is that in the Legend of Korra, like metal bending is a huge thing. Like everybody's doing metal bending, right? Yeah. But Toph, when she learned it, it's not like it took her like 2 weeks. She learned it in 1 episode. Like she was caged in a metal thing, and they were like, "Oh yeah, earthbend out of that," and she was like, "I bet," and just sat on it for like a couple like hours. And at the end of the episode, homegirl said, "Whop," and just walked out. Like what?
I am the greatest earthbender in the world, and don't you do dumb thunderheads ever forget.
Oh my god, she literally said that. You must really fuck with that show.
I internalized it.
Yeah, that shit, like, it's just awesome, dog.
It's really like it's another one of her tricks. There's a hole in the box. How is that a trick? It's not. It's the real deal. It's like I just hear her talk, and it's like whenever I'm feeling down, I watch Avatar videos on YouTube.
No, I'll be honest. Like, I think talking about like a magic system, I think the whole Avatar magic system has to be easily one of the best ever created ever. Just because like
it's amazing.
Yeah, just because like the inventiveness, like to me, what it seems like is that like there is absolutely no limit to how you want to take your element if you're about it. I mean, there are people that learn how to lava bend.
Yes.
And it's not even related to fire. It's earthbenders that learn how to manipulate lava. Like, that's crazy. Firebenders can learn lightning bending. What the fuck is that?
Freaking like, Azula, like, damn. But Azula, it's an interesting character.
Azula. Oh my god. That like my favorite thing about that is like, you know how like the final fight scene between her and Zuko when they're like, she's just so emotional. Yeah, and she's just like, so like you can just tell like how emotionally damaged she is. Oh my god, that's just like, I need to rewatch that show now.
You can tell that she's broken because she was really the perfect prodigy. She was like no mistakes, no flaws, no nothing. She was picture perfect girl. And then in the final Agnica, you can tell it's a disaster. It's like, whoa. Yeah, that is the concept of how emotions affect your skill. I also explore that in my sci-fi. Like emotions affect you, like your astral projection, the way that you develop in that spiritual sense, like what you get, where you go, and how you perform. It will be affected by your concentration, your emotions, your state of being. So I also explore that aspect. So yeah, it was so good to see that in Avatar. And definitely Toph is like, people associate me with Toph because I tell them that if you want to associate me with
Toph.
No, it's like, because the first thing people say is Daredevil, and I'm like, not really. Toph, I'm more like her. It's like Daredevil is cool, but I didn't see that as a child. I didn't grow up with Daredevil, and it's exaggerated blindness, and I just don't like how it's portrayed. It's too superhero like. Toph, they made it similar, but it works within the concept of the fantasy world that they created. She's not exaggerated. It just works. So I prefer how the creation and development of Toph rather than Daredevil. Daredevil was exaggerated for no reason, and Toph it just works. And she can be as amazing as she wants because it just works. It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like going off of that, I think that's like why like the original fight with Aang when they're like going at it, like why she calls them twinkle toes is because like she's so connected to the earth that if a person isn't walking, like what can she do? And of course she's still such a badass that she learns how to overcome it anyway, whoops that ass. But like the fact that
the first introduction to Aang was like she was humiliated because she couldn't do anything. And then she took it to heart. She was like, leave me alone. And I am like this when I encounter something that is like too much, and not that I get humiliated, but like when I feel like I just can't because I'm not prepared, I am the same. I have the same reaction. It's like, leave me alone. And I see myself in her. I see myself in a lot of the things that she did, and also the way that her family thing was so, oh god, don't even get me started. I'm not gonna go there, but yeah, I'm basically a real life version of Toph, but without the earthbending shebang, because real life.
Yeah, I would say I'm more like Zuko. Just always trying to prove shit for absolutely no reason. But I come around later.
Yeah. So that's my response. This is how I show affection.
Yeah.
What was that for? It's like, that's how I show affection.
The only thing is that I don't actually have luscious hair. I'm Spanish, I don't have that ponytail, but I'll try it out one time. You know what I'm saying? I'll shave my shit. I'll even get a scar. You know what I'm saying? I'll deep fry some chicharrón or whatever the fuck, and like the oil will splash up in my eye. And
that's your Halloween costume.
yeah, that's my Halloween thing. Except that I'm, I did it for real because I'm a dumbass, so that's my life now. I am Zuko.
That's rough, but
well, I'm passionate. Damn it, I'm saying I commit.
yeah, yeah.
Like
you're doing it for your honor.
Exactly.
You're doing it for your honor.
Exactly. Like Jim Gaffigan says, when I get ice cream, I open up the pint thing and I throw away the lid. Why? Because I am a man of honor. I commit. I'm gonna eat that whole thing one sitting. All right. I'm a man of my fucking word.
This is absolutely hilarious. This is something I do all the time. Is like, I don't ask you for like Hogwarts house because I'm not that big into Harry Potter, but I will ask you, what is your element bending?
Oh, fire.
Who are you?
It's not even a question.
Who are you in the Avatar world?
Fire.
Who are you? It's like, yeah,
fire.
Without I'm Toph.
No, without a single doubt, I am 100% fire. Over passionate for no reason. Need to relax. Honestly, like I need a lot more like Iroh in my life, but I don't. I have more fucking like Azula and like Zuko like battling it out in my head.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, we all need a little bit of Iroh in our lives.
Yeah, I need a lot more Iroh in my life.
We need that in our lives, definitely, especially in the self-publishing or querying process. We definitely need an Iroh, someone like him in our lives, because damn, it's a rough path. It really is a rough path when it comes to like publishing. Being a writer in the 21st century is not the same as being a writer in the 90s, in the 80s, even before that.
Or even in 2000. I have had the pleasure of talking to authors that were publishing in 2000, and their stories are so different than our stories. Amazon had just come out. People like didn't even understand the idea of getting a book through the mail. They're like, oh, that's stupid. I'd rather just go to Barnes and Noble, right? So like they were talking about like when they published their book and they had like no editing, no cover designer. They just went and fucking like drew something on like a doodle and they became bestsellers just because there was nothing in the market. It was new to people. Like it was a crazy idea that you can hop on and buy a book for like $3. Like, books were like, $15, $10. Like that's the price of books. And it was crazy to people that you can hop on and buy something for $5. So like people were doing it just for the lows. You know what I'm saying? Like I talked to those authors that like, published like that thing, and you look at their old work and they have like 15,000 reviews. That's like Stephen King shit.
Wow.
15,000 reviews. And then
fabulous.
Yeah, and you compare it to like people that do crazy amounts of work, that have 5 editors, 3 cover designers, put so much work, all the money into marketing, right? And then there is just such an oversaturation of the market today that you're not gonna, likelihood of 15,000 fucking reviews. I mean,
no,
God bless you. I'm with you. Believe me, I want it for you. I have no spite in my heart. Truly, I want it for you. But it's just 15,000.
Yeah, it's just not. It's not happening. I'm very self-aware that that's not. Even if I got traditionally published, no, I just know it's not gonna be a thing. It really isn't.
There's an oversaturation of the market. I mean, like, and
like the thing is that everybody wants to write.
Yeah.
Especially with the pandemic. Like the pandemic, it made it even worse because everybody wants to write now. Everyone wants the new Hemingway, and I'm like, no, like I don't want to be judged because I know that stigma, that new stigma after the pandemic, it exists. It's like, yeah, sure, everybody wants to be a writer now, and I'm like, no, I started even. Yeah, everyone's a critic, and I'm like, no, I started even before the pandemic, and I'm working on it. It's just that I'm slow because me blind, but. It's not because I got quarantined and I am suddenly the next writer. No, and I don't want to. This is why I'm so hard on the quality of my work. This is why I need an editor. This is why I need to make it the best it can possibly be, because I don't want people to judge me based on things that they don't even know. And it's like, I'm just not gonna let it be. I'm very much a perfectionist. I'm a Virgo. What can I say? I'm a perfectionist. It's a flaw. I have to work with that flaw instead of against it. But I recognize that I can also get caught up in the perfectionism thing.
I think that's tied more to like profession more than astrology sign, because like most authors that I talk to, and I say most because there are some authors that are like, oh, who gives a fuck, I don't even edit, I just put my shit up, if they care, who cares, whatever. But like,
Yeah.
you know, I have that thing that if my name goes out on something, like I'm proud of it. Might also because I'm Spanish, who knows. But like, you know, like you have to be proud of the things that you're putting out. And when it comes to specifically writing and writing your own book, and if you're self-publishing, it's one of those things like, yeah, you have to go through it. I can't tell you, like, again, I had just finished my paperback, going through, like I had, like, you know, we were talking about before recording, and every so while, like you know, like, you know, when you're doing like those final checks, like, you know, like that, you think everything's fine, like, oh yeah, I'm just doing this for fun, I'm just double checking, and then you find that one hyphen that has no place there, and you're just like, you feel like it's visceral, you feel like someone just shot you in the leg, and you're there like, oh my god, how can my computer offend me in such a way? Like, how did it take me so long?
Escape me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other problem I'm having, apart from that aspect, is that I like, who are my role models? Who are my authors that I look up to? It's like, you know, it's like Kazuo Ishiguro, I mentioned him. I love his work. Clara and the Sun is one of my comp titles because it has to be a recent title. It cannot be from 20 years ago. So I had to go with Clara and the Sun because it shares themes, not the same, but it shares similar themes. So I go with that one. So Mr. Ishiguro, who is like an eminence of writing. Then Arthur C. Clarke, of course, master of science fiction. Mary Shelley, who was like a pioneer of science fiction back in her day.
I have Frankenstein right there.
Yeah, I love a lot of inspiration of The Outsider. Again, Mary Shelley. Like, people heard it conversation. Oh, but I mean, J.K. Rowling was also rejected. I'm like, Mary Shelley. I'm always like, no, Mary Shelley. It's like, don't compare me to Rowling. I don't write fantasy. If you want to put a name next to mine, it has to be Mary Shelley. I want to be like her, because Frankenstein. I don't want her personal life. Her personal life was a disaster. But when it comes to writing, Frankenstein is a big inspiration for Tibor. He was born in a lab in space, and people do call him Frankenstein. So it's another bullying thing that they do. It's like, oh, you shut up, you Frankenstein. It's like, you know, it's there. It's a nod to Mary Shelley. It's like, yeah, lots of inspiration. But who else? Who are my Jorge Luis Borges, Argentine writer? I bow. Jorge Luis Borges was a master of the craft. And so you see the names that I'm bringing up, it's not any writer. These are the people that I look up to, and I'm just putting a lot of pressure upon myself. I know that. I know.
No, but like, honestly, I think that is that level of like really passionate and like initiative, I think it's lacking in the industry. I mean, like, you have to, I think I can't remember like who said it, but there was like somebody, like, it was like a small like bodega owner being interviewed by the news thing and like that, and like the interviewer was like asking him, was like, oh, how do you deal with like the competition of, like, you know, like local people? And he goes like, oh, I'm not competing against fucking, you know, the guy across the street that has a bodega. I'm competing with Walmart. Like, that's what I have to aim for. I have to aim for my actual competition, not the people around, you know, my little neck of the woods. I got to aim for fucking higher. So like, I think like, for as much pressure as we put on ourselves, I think that pressure, like, you know,
it helps you.
Yeah,
it helps you get better. You know, it does help you with the self-improvement aspect. Yeah. It's like everywhere it's not just in the writing sense, like the writing industry and the writers. No, everything I do in my life, like, who do I look up to? Björk is a queen. I mean, she's like a metal bender herself. She invented her own category of genre. You cannot label her as pop or rock or nothing. She's Björk. You cannot judge her music in any other way. And I look up to her so much. She's like such an inspiration for me. Simo Häyhä, who is a who was a Finnish sniper. The deadliest sniper in the history of snipers ever was Mr. Simo Häyhä. I wrote a flash fiction to make a tribute for him. So that's also on my YouTube channel. You can hear it. I did my best. I mean, I admire people who are the best of the best. Not that I want to be like them. I don't think I ever will, but these are the people that, they are the bar setters, you know? That's the bar. And I have to go as close as possible to that bar. I'm never gonna be like them. I'm never gonna be as good or better than, not even close, but I have to aim for the highest. It's something that it's in my mind all the time. I don't know, I'm just like that. I cannot like what you said about being proud of what you put out. I cannot put out anything and just not care. That's not what you're gonna get from me. And that's why also when you look at my Instagram page, this is why you see like the whole work that I put into it. It's like, how is she blind? Like people ask me in the DMs, like, dude, it's like the best thing I have seen on Instagram in a long time. How is it that you're blind? And I have to explain how I do it, because it's a whole process. But like, this is a reflection of who I am as a person. I'm not making it to try too hard. No, I want to put out something that I'm proud of, and it's reflected in everything I do online. It always have to be my very best. So yeah, I'm one of those writers.
Man,
I need to have more fun, more relaxed.
no, I mean, like I'm with you, honestly. I'm on the same side of the street that you are on, and I think that's like a beautiful sentiment. I think that's a beautiful call to arms, if we're being completely honest. I completely agree with it. And yeah, aim, it's like the whole I don't know if like how into like rap music you are, but it was like Kendrick making the control verse, and like him just like calling out the industry, saying that like rap in general needs to like up their game up and be more lyrical and things like that. Like I agree. Like, you can't be aiming, especially in indies, you can't be aiming for competition against your own pool. You got to aim for the James Patterson. You got to aim for the Neil Gaimans. You got to go for it and like really look to them as an example, and, form your shit in that, in that route. It doesn't have to be like identical. I'm not saying go ahead and like, copy that shit. You just,
No, not at all.
I'm
But
not saying you
aim
pick
for
up this
the
and go like, all right,
yeah, you gotta go for that.
Yeah. Like you gotta go to the same level. I'm not saying you have to be in the same category. Like, you know what I'm saying? You gotta bring it. You gotta really bring it and really love what you're doing and be passionate about it.
Yeah, Philip Pullman is more a fantasy writer than a sci-fi writer, although he combines elements of the two. So Philip Pullman is like a mix, a genre hopper kind of. Philip Pullman was my, like, people, the people who always say like I started with Harry Potter, that was my introduction to literature. Some say Percy Jackson.
Yeah, that's me. I'm Percy.
Yeah, Percy. I am his Dark Materials. That was my introduction, and I got it as I didn't start when I was a kid because country of living and circumstances, I didn't have the access to English fiction. But when I finally had it, my introduction was the Northern Lights by Philip Pullman. That was the Golden Compass in the United States. So yeah, but in Europe it's called the Northern Lights. So that was my introduction, and it was completely by accident. I was looking for videos with the Northern Lights because I love those. And sometimes when I cannot sleep, I go for aurora lights. All that, you will see that on my Instagram. I am crazy about Northern Lights. I love them so much. And so I was looking for a video, and then I saw something that was like 10 hours long, and it's like the Northern Lights. I was like, interesting. And I clicked on it, and it wasn't what I was looking for. It was the audiobook, and there was no turning back. He was my introduction to English fiction. And then I listened to more audiobooks because my reading is with my ears. I'm blind, or partially blind. I mean, I have some remaining vision, but it's so tiny that I can call myself blind, and it's okay. And it's the correct term is partially blind, but I see almost nothing. So I listened to audiobooks, and so he was my introduction. Then I went with Jonathan Stroud's The Lockwood & Co. series. I was very Britishized for some reason. And then I read all the others, and then I started going with the big ones. But no, my initiator was Mr. Pullman. And again, he is another big name, another masterful writer. And this is the bar. That was always the bar for me. So I just cannot do less than, even if I have a disability, even if I have like a rougher path to overcome. I don't care. I'm gonna do my best.
Wow. Man, again, I just love the entire sentiment. I think it's such a well said sentiment, and again, just a beautiful, like, almost author bio of like not only talking about your writing, but like talking about like what to expect from you as a person, which I think is beautiful. Now we're approaching the end of the episode here, so
Yes.
I want
Got
you
it.
to give a quick little sales pitch, a quick little, get people excited for not only the Weaving, Spider, and Moth, but also Danger, your noir novella. I know we didn't get to talk about it too much, so I think it'll be a good thing. It is now,
To just talk about it a little bit.
A little
All right.
promotion for it.
So you guys know a lot about me now as a person. So Danger is a short story that's a thriller noir set in Iceland. A lot of Iceland in my writing. I think I got inspired by Iceland to become a writer after my visit in 2016. So everything just started from there, and I pay tribute to it in a lot of my settings. Iceland is present, as well as Finland. So Danger is set in Iceland, and it follows the perspective of Detective Gulliver Fox, who is a private investigator from Britain, from the UK, but his intentions are kind of questionable. Like his moral, you will see. I mean, can you really trust him? Can you? And also, it also follows the perspective of Hulda, who is an Icelandic woman with a very strong sense of self-preservation. And I'm not going to talk about her that much because she's my femme fatale, but it's not your typical femme fatale. So if you want to know what happens with those two, you have to read that short story to see who survives and who ends up in the hands of nature.
Oh, that's great. And also, a quick little one for the Weaving, Spider, and Moth coming soon.
Somewhere.
Make sure to
Let
watch
me
out
know
for
if
it, do
you
what you gotta
if you want
do.
to start, if you want to support me for a Kickstarter of any kind, because I never tried because I think no one cares. But like, if you would like to do that, like if people are really interested in a Kickstarter project, let's do this.
Yeah, reach out.
I'm up for it. Definitely. So The Weaving, Spider, and Moth is a story about children with special abilities who are outsiders in every sense of the word outsider. And they are trying to develop the best of their abilities with whatever they have at hand to overcome the abuse and neglect of their families, respectively.
Ooh. Yeah, I like that a lot. And tied with a whole bunch of sci-fi shit. It's talking about there's visits to Andromeda, Kepler. I mean, like, and it's just Homegirl really did her research about it too, which is something that I really respect. So again, I cannot give more support. Make sure to find their Dal Cecil Runo, Google it, but also where can people find you on Instagram? Do you have a website?
I have a Wix website. I'm poor. But yeah, my website is in the link in bio, multi-link in bio stuff that I did on my Instagram and everywhere on social media, everywhere that you could think of. If I am there, I am always Dal Cecil Runo. I am the only one with this name. It's a pen name. So it's very cool because no one has it. So if you Google Dal Cecil Runo, you're going to find my Twitter, my Instagram, the Facebook page, the YouTube channel where you can listen to my short stories for free. I am the narrator, and sometimes I collaborate with other people. So you're going to hear me narrating my stories. Lots of things. I am very approachable. I'm the peaceful alien. If you just want to chat, I'm here. If I'm not reading or writing, I reply.
God, I love it. And again, you got to make sure to do it. I think my favorite thing about this whole sphere is, like, when Stephen King was knocking out Stand By Me or Lean on Me, whatever the fuck you want, there was no way of, like, maybe you can send him a letter. If you live in New Hampshire or Maine, maybe you'd run into him when he went to the grocery store, but there's no way to communicate. But now you can do that. You can communicate with the authors that write the things that are interesting to you, and you can do that. That's a thing that we 100% have power for. So, take the opportunity, reach out to Dale, give your support. I'm telling you, it's going to be worth it. Now, before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts?
My battery is about to die.
Oh my God. Well, without that, on that note, then this is the end of the podcast. A.R.T.
Thank you so much.
aka the A.R.T. podcast. I've been A.R. Mirabal. This has been Dale. Say bye to the folks.
Bye guys.
And this is the end. Check with us again when we have our next episode Monday and Fridays. Peace out.